Have you ever wondered why some women experience increasing frustration with their husbands as the years pass? It's a common reality for many long-term couples. What once felt like a strong bond can sometimes turn into daily irritation, silent resentment, or even outright hostility. But why does this happen? Why do many women, after decades of marriage, feel disconnected, exhausted, or even resentful toward the person they once chose to spend their lives with? In this video, we'll explore the deep-rooted reasons behind this shift. From evolving emotional needs to years of unspoken frustration, there are specific patterns that cause marriages to drift into tension over time. Many of these changes occur gradually, so slowly that neither person realizes what's happening until one day the warmth is gone, replaced by resentment, frustration, or even regret. However, understanding these patterns can be beneficial. By recognizing these signs, you can gain clarity, whether it's about your own marriage or someone else's. And by acknowledging these indicators, there's still a chance to change course, reconnect, and create a relationship that feels fulfilling once again. Stay with me until the very end, as the reasons behind this shift might surprise you. These aren't just complaints or fleeting irritations. There are deeper psychological and emotional factors at play, ones that have been shaping relationships for years without people even realizing it. By the time we're done, you may see your own marriage or even past relationships in an entirely new light. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend subscribing and turning on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with a positive rating. If you didn't like it, kindly type 0 in the comments to let me know so I can improve my content for you in the future. Let's get started. Number 1. Years of emotional labor without appreciation. One of the primary reasons women tend to develop resentment towards their husbands as they age is the burden of emotional labor. Years of tirelessly nurturing the relationship, managing the household, and caring for the family often go unnoticed or unappreciated. Emotional labor encompasses not only physical tasks like cooking or cleaning, but also the unseen mental and emotional work that sustains a marriage. It involves remembering birthdays, managing family schedules, resolving conflicts, and consistently prioritizing everyone else's needs. These responsibilities often fall disproportionately on women, leading to exhaustion after decades of carrying this burden. Many men mistakenly believe that financial support alone constitutes their contribution to a marriage. However, a marriage demands more than just financial stability. It requires effort, emotional presence, and recognition of a woman's value. If a woman dedicates her life to caring for the family, managing household tasks, fulfilling social obligations, and ensuring her husband's well-being, and he fails to acknowledge or appreciate her efforts, resentment gradually builds. Consider Carol, a 72-year-old retired teacher who dedicated her life to raising 3 children, working full-time, and ensuring her husband's smooth life. She meticulously planned meals for every holiday and picked out gifts for every birthday. She remembered doctor's appointments, maintained friendships for both of them, and created a comfortable and organized environment. However, upon reflection, she realized that no one had ever reciprocated her efforts. Her husband never asked for help or expressed gratitude for her contributions. Decades later, she felt devoid of love and exhausted. The frustration of emotional labor lies in its invisibility. A woman can spend her entire marriage diligently ensuring everything runs smoothly, but if her husband fails to acknowledge her efforts, he will never comprehend why she has become distant or resentful. It's not a sudden change in her, it's a realization that she has reached her limit. Additionally, appreciation evolves over time. In the early years of marriage, small gestures like a thank you or a compliment might have been sufficient. After decades of marriage, if a husband assumes his wife will always handle everything effortlessly, he creates a relationship where she feels more like a caretaker than a partner. This feeling of neglect can lead to a gradual fading of love, replaced by frustration and emotional exhaustion. It's important to recognize that women don't simply resent their husbands overnight. Resentment builds over years of feeling unseen and unappreciated. If a woman feels her emotional contributions have gone unnoticed for decades, it's natural for her to pull away. If this resonates with you, or if you've ever felt unappreciated in your relationship, you're not alone. Many women experience this, often without realizing it until years have passed. Another common issue is feeling like a roommate instead of a wife. As the years pass, many women begin to feel like they're living with a roommate rather than a husband, and this shift can be incredibly painful. In the early years of marriage, there's excitement, passion, and a deep emotional connection. However, over time, if both partners stop putting effort into the relationship, the romance fades, and what remains is a partnership that feels more like two people simply coexisting under the same roof. This change doesn't happen overnight, it's gradual. At first, it might just be a few missed date nights or a lack of deep conversations. Then, routine sets in, with the same schedules, patterns, and surface-level interactions. Eventually, one day, she realizes that she and her husband are no longer truly connected. They may eat meals together or watch TV in the same room, but the intimacy is gone. She no longer feels desired or seen. She feels like a housemate, not a wife. Take Linda, a 69-year-old retired nurse, for example. In the early years of her marriage, she and her husband shared laughter, long walks, and dreams. Over time, their conversations dwindled. He ceased asking her about her day. Instead, he spent more time watching TV or sitting in silence. Eventually, they began living parallel lives together, yet apart. The worst part was, he remained oblivious. To him, nothing had changed. But to Linda, everything had shifted. This phenomenon occurs in numerous marriages because many men assume that once they get married, the work is done. They believe that simply being present in the home is sufficient, overlooking the fact that relationships necessitate consistent effort to flourish. What they fail to comprehend is that when a woman feels emotionally detached for years, it doesn't merely make her feel lonely, it also breeds resentment. Women require emotional intimacy just as much as physical intimacy. They need to feel cherished, valued, and engaged in meaningful conversations. A husband who gradually stops making an effort, flirting, complimenting, or showing genuine interest slowly transforms into someone his wife resents. Because when a woman no longer feels desired, she begins to question her purpose in the marriage. Another painful reality is that many women attempt to address this issue before giving up. They bring it up, express their needs, and request more connection, affection, and attention. However, if these requests are ignored or met with indifference, she gradually stops asking. Once a woman ceases trying to reconnect, the emotional distance becomes permanent. If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Many women experience this, feeling the weight of an emotional gap that they never anticipated in their marriage. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment on the second video below to let me know you're here. Your engagement helps me continue creating content that supports and uplifts you. Number 3. Unresolved conflicts that accumulate over the years. One of the most detrimental reasons women begin to resent their husbands as they age is the accumulation of unresolved conflicts, minor arguments, disappointments, and emotional wounds that remain unaddressed. Over time, these unresolved issues don't simply vanish. Instead, they accumulate. creating layers of frustration that eventually transform into deep-seated resentment. Many couples fall into the habit of ignoring problems instead of resolving them. Perhaps it starts with small things, such as a dismissive comment, a forgotten anniversary, or an argument left unresolved. Initially, a woman might overlook these minor disappointments, believing they're not worth the effort. However, as the years pass, these small disappointments accumulate, leading to a forgotten apology here, an unmet expectation there, and before long, she realizes that her husband has hurt her in countless small ways, none of which are significant enough to break the marriage on their own. Together, these factors create an insurmountable distance between partners. Take Patricia, a 74-year-old retired accountant. Despite her outwardly stable marriage of over 40 years, she carried years of resentment. Every time her feelings were dismissed, her needs minimized, or her husband broke promises, she felt hurt. She had previously brought up her frustrations, but they were always brushed aside with dismissive responses. Why bring it up now? Over time, she stopped arguing, expecting no change, and no longer saw her husband as genuinely caring about her feelings. This pattern is remarkably common. Many women hold on to hurt because they never received closure. When a man repeatedly ignores or minimizes his wife's concerns, whether intentionally or not, he sends the message that her feelings don't matter. This emotional neglect breeds resentment like nothing else. Another dangerous aspect of unresolved conflict is how it alters a woman's perception of her husband. Initially, a marriage is filled with love, admiration, and a sense of partnership. However, when conflict remains unresolved, these positive feelings gradually fade. A woman who once saw her husband as her best friend may now perceive him as someone who simply doesn't listen, dismisses her needs, and has become more of an adversary than a partner. The worst part: many men are unaware of this transformation. They assume that if she's not arguing, everything must be fine. They mistake silence for peace, when in reality, silence often indicates that a woman has given up on trying to be heard. If you've ever felt like your frustrations have been ignored for years, or if you found yourself thinking, "Why should I even bring it up?" then know that you're not alone. This is a common experience for countless women. Another factor contributing to their dissatisfaction is a shift in priorities that leaves them feeling unfulfilled. As women age, their priorities and desires evolve, often in ways their husbands fail to notice or adapt to. What once seemed like a fulfilling life, centered around raising children, managing the home, and supporting their spouse's career, can begin to feel like a chapter that has come to an end. Many women reach a stage where they yearn for something more, whether it's a deeper emotional connection, personal growth, or a newfound sense of independence. However, when their husbands remain stuck in their routines, oblivious to these changes, it creates a painful divide. For years, many women have sacrificed their own dreams and needs for the sake of their families. They prioritize raising children, maintaining stability, and ensuring everyone else's well-being. But once the children are grown and the household no longer demands the same level of attention, they realize something is missing. And if their husbands haven't grown alongside them, if they still expect the same dynamic as when they were younger, it leaves many women feeling trapped in a life that no longer brings them fulfillment. Take Helen, a 68-year-old retired librarian, for example. For decades, her focus was on her family. She actively participated in school projects, planned family vacations, and poured her heart into keeping her home warm and inviting. However, in retirement, she yearned for new experiences. She wanted to explore the world, join social groups, and pursue hobbies she had never had the time for. But her husband, he was perfectly content with his evening routine of sitting in front of the TV, uninterested in exploring new experiences. Whenever she suggested doing something different, he would dismiss her ideas, saying, "I'm happy with the way things are." However, he didn't realize that she wasn't. This lack of understanding led to resentment building up. A woman who had dedicated her life to putting others first began to realize that no one was reciprocating that effort. She yearned for a life that felt fulfilling. But if her husband refused to engage or evolve with her, she started to perceive him as an obstacle rather than a partner. This shift in perspective transformed mild frustration into something profound. The issue wasn't just a matter of changing priorities. It was that many men failed to recognize the need for change until it was too late. They assumed that their wives would always be content playing the same roles they had for years, failing to acknowledge that she desired more from life. When a woman felt like she was outgrowing her marriage while her husband remained stagnant, it created a disconnect that was almost impossible to repair unless genuine effort was made. Aging should be a time of new possibilities, not just routine and repetition. When women felt like they were still growing but their husbands had stopped, the resentment wasn't just about boredom. It was about feeling hindered from the life they now desired to live. If this resonates with you, if you've ever experienced a shift in your priorities while your husband remained stuck in old habits, know that you are not alone. Many women experience this as they age. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment on number 4 below to let me know you're here. Your engagement helps me create content that supports and uplifts you. Number 5 is a lack of emotional and physical affection. One of the most painful reasons women grow resentful toward their husbands as they age is the gradual but undeniable loss of both emotional and physical affection. While every marriage evolves over time, when affection fades completely, it leaves many women feeling deeply unwanted, unloved, and disconnected from the person they once felt closest to. At the beginning of a relationship, there's often warmth, hugs, kisses, and small gestures of love that make a woman feel cherished. But as the years pass, many husbands grow comfortable, forgetting that affection isn't just a phase of marriage, it's a necessity for keeping love alive. For some women, the moment they realized things had changed wasn't a major argument or a dramatic moment. It was simply the slow realization that the small touches, thoughtful compliments, and playful flirtation had disappeared. Take Sharon, a 71-year-old retired secretary. She remembers when she and her husband used to hold hands while walking, when he would gently place a hand on her back while they talked, and when he would give her warm hugs just because. But now, he barely looks at her the same way. Conversations have turned into practical discussions about bills and chores. When they sit on the couch together, they feel miles apart. She once brought it up to him, saying, "I miss the way things used to be." His response was, "We're too old for that now." And that was the moment she realized he didn't see the problem at all. What many men don't understand is that affection isn't just about romance, it's about emotional security. Women don't stop wanting to feel beautiful, adored, and like they matter. When a husband stops showing affection, it doesn't just make a woman feel lonely, it makes her feel invisible, inflicting one of the deepest wounds a marriage can cause. Additionally, physical intimacy changes with age. Many couples experience shifts in desire, especially due to health concerns or physical transformations. However, what many women resent is not the decrease in physical intimacy, but the lack of effort to maintain emotional connection. A husband who stops showing affection in small ways, no longer compliments, or never initiates warmth gradually creates a marriage where his wife no longer feels like a woman, but simply a cohabitant. The harsh truth is, women don't simply get used to this, they start to resent it. They resent the fact that their needs have been disregarded, their emotional longing dismissed, and their continued craving for connection dismissed because their husband has decided that affection is no longer necessary. Many women attempt to rectify this situation before giving up. They hint at wanting more closeness, bring up the lack of affection, and express their sadness. However, if these concerns are dismissed, ignored, or laughed at, eventually they cease to ask. When a woman stops asking for love, it's not because she no longer desires it. It's because she's accepted that she won't receive it. This realization gradually extinguishes any remaining feelings. If this resonates with you, if you've ever experienced the excruciating loneliness of a love that no longer feels like love, know that you're not alone. This is a common experience for many women as they age, often in silence. Number 6, feeling like she's taken for granted. One of the most profound sources of resentment in a long-term marriage is the feeling of being taken for granted. It's the feeling of giving, sacrificing, and showing love for decades, only to be left unnoticed or unappreciated. Over time, many women realize that the things they once did out of love, like preparing meals, remembering special dates, and supporting their husbands through life's challenges, have become expectations rather than gestures of care. When appreciation fades, so does the warmth in a marriage. Initially, there's often gratitude. A husband might say, "Thank you for making dinner," or "I appreciate how much you do for me." However, as the years pass, many husbands stop acknowledging these everyday efforts, assuming their wives will always take care of things. This shift from being appreciated to being expected gradually turns love into resentment. Take Nancy, a 72-year-old retired school principal. For years, she had taken care of her household without complaint. She ensured her husband's favorite meals were on the table, kept the home in order, scheduled appointments, and handled the little things that made their lives smoother. But over time, she began to notice something. He never said thank you anymore. When she went out of her way to do something thoughtful, it was met with silence, as if it was simply her job. One day, after spending hours preparing a meal, she sat down, looked at her husband, and asked, "Do you even notice how much I do for you?" His response, a confused shrug. That was the moment she realized he had stopped seeing her efforts entirely. This feeling of being invisible in your own marriage is devastating. When a woman spends years giving and giving without ever receiving acknowledgement or reciprocity, it takes a toll on her. Eventually, she stops wanting to give it all. The real issue isn't just that men stop expressing appreciation. It's that many of them don't realize the extent of their wives' contributions. A woman who has dedicated her life to managing household details, remembering birthdays, providing emotional support, and maintaining the relationship may appear content on the outside. However, internally, she may feel exhausted, drained, and completely unappreciated. Here's the part many men fail to comprehend. Resentment doesn't arise from a single significant event. It accumulates from 1,000 small moments of feeling unappreciated. When a woman's sense of value diminishes, she begins to emotionally withdraw. She may stop laughing as frequently, initiating conversations, and engaging in the small acts of love she once did without malice. Instead, she simply lacks the energy to give. Many husbands fail to realize that appreciation doesn't require much effort. A simple thank you, an occasional acknowledgement of her efforts, or even an unexpected compliment can make a woman feel loved and noticed. However, when these words cease to be spoken, the emotional connection fades. If you've ever felt like you're giving endlessly without receiving gratitude, or if you've ever wondered if your husband even notices all that you do, know that your feelings are valid. Many women endure this silent struggle, questioning whether their efforts truly matter anymore. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment on number 6 below to let me know you're here. Your engagement helps me continue creating content that supports and uplifts you. Number 7. Recognizing the growing distance between them. One of the most heartbreaking reasons women begin to resent their husbands as they age is the realization that they have simply grown apart. The man they once shared dreams and laughter with now feels like a stranger. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that unfolds over years of routine, neglect, and a lack of effort to maintain emotional intimacy. One day, a woman gazes at her husband and wonders, "Who is this person? And how did we end up here?" Many marriages begin with a profound connection, engaging conversations, shared aspirations, and the profound sense of being partners in life. However, as time passes, life's demands take precedence. Careers, children, responsibilities, and stress become overwhelming priorities. If a couple fails to consciously nurture their growth together, they inevitably drift apart. For many women, the initial indicator of this shift is a decline in meaningful conversations. They realize that they and their husband no longer engage in the deep, meaningful discussions they once shared. While they may discuss practical matters like bills, family plans, and daily routines, the profound connection they once had has vanished. The curiosity about each other's thoughts and feelings has waned. She might attempt to bring up significant topics, but instead of engaging in a thoughtful exchange, he dismisses her concerns with short, indifferent responses. Over time, she loses the motivation to continue these conversations. Consider Margaret, a 74-year-old retired social worker. When she and her husband were younger, they would spend late nights discussing their dreams, fears, and future plans. However, their conversations have since become superficial. When she asked him about his thoughts on something important, he would simply grunt in response or redirect the conversation to the news on TV. When she tried to share her personal growth or interests, he barely gave her his attention. This realization struck her as a profound truth. She was living with someone who no longer truly knew her. This emotional disconnect intensifies when women discover that their husbands seem indifferent to their feelings. While they grapple with deep loneliness, many men remain oblivious to the underlying issues. They assume that, as long as there's no major conflict, everything must be okay. However, for a woman, emotional disconnection is just as painful as a full-blown argument. It leaves her feeling isolated, invisible, and profoundly alone within the confines of her marriage. Another common realization is that they no longer share the same interests. Over the years, many women develop new passions, hobbies, or ways of thinking. While their husbands remain unchanged, she might yearn to travel, acquire a new skill, or engage in profound discussions about life. However, if her husband refuses to evolve with her, she begins to feel trapped in a marriage that no longer satisfies her. The most painful aspect is that many women mourn the marriage they once cherished. They recall the man who used to make them laugh, the one who held their hand without hesitation, and the one who cared deeply about their thoughts and aspirations. But when that version of their husband vanishes, they are left with someone who is physically present but emotionally detached. And that absence is the foundation of resentment. Here's the truth: love isn't something that simply occurs, it's something that requires consistent effort. When a husband ceases to invest in the relationship, stops learning about his wife, and chooses to disconnect emotionally, he gradually transforms into a stranger in his own home. If this resonates with you, if you've ever experienced the quiet ache of realizing that you and your husband have grown distant, know that you are not alone. Many women endure this, often wondering if they are the only ones feeling this way. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment on the 6th point below to let me know your presence. Your feedback is instrumental in my continued creation of content that celebrates and empowers you. Final thoughts, Yashim Rasul. As we conclude this video, take a moment to contemplate the points we've discussed. Contrary to popular belief, resentment in a marriage doesn't arise overnight. It often develops gradually over years of unspoken frustrations, unmet emotional needs, and the gradual realization that one's partner is no longer being seen, heard, or valued. While major betrayals or dramatic fights may trigger resentment, it's often the cumulative effect of small, consistent disappointments that erode the foundation of a marriage. However, it's crucial to remember that resentment doesn't necessarily signify the end of love. It simply indicates that a change is necessary. Many women feel trapped in silence, believing that their emotions are too intricate to articulate or that it's too late to address these issues. Nevertheless, it's never too late to engage in honest conversations, express your appreciation, rekindle the lost connection, or even choose a new path forward. Whatever that may entail for you. If you identify with any of these signs, know that your feelings are valid. You are not alone in this journey. Numerous women have traversed the same emotional path and emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. The key is recognizing that you deserve to feel valued in your relationship. You have always had this right, and it will always be yours. Now, I would be delighted to hear from you. Which of these signs resonated with you the most? Have you ever experienced a shift in your marriage of this nature? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. I genuinely enjoy reading your experiences and insights. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your thoughts are of utmost importance to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments provides us with immense motivation and encouragement. If you found this video helpful and informative, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it. Your support is instrumental in helping us continue creating valuable content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we eagerly anticipate seeing you in our next video.